We did it! We made it all the way through the Flash Gordon soundtrack. The hero finishes it out next on Crown Jewels. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Crown Jewels. I am your host, PLD, here on the PLD Projects Network. This is the podcast where I'm taking you through the entirety of the Queen catalog, song by song, and we have reached the climax of the Flash Gordon soundtrack. It feels like we've been doing this one forever. I mean, it doesn't hurt that we had that big, long, interrupted break where I covered the Queen 1 box set, all those new editions of songs we had to listen to there to revisit the Queen 1 era. So it feels like it's been forever. It kind of has because of that. Either way, this is the last track from the Flash Gordon soundtrack. We will be covering, of course, the concerts from the Flash Gordon tours on the next episode, but then we will move on to our first solo project, full album, Roger Taylor's Fun in Space. But that's looking ahead of ourselves. Let's look back here at 1980s Flash Gordon. This one called The Hero. Written by Brian May, featuring Freddie on vocals, Brian on guitars, piano, synthesizer, and vocals, John Deacon on the bass guitar, Roger Taylor on drums and vocals, and Howard Blake on orchestrations. Now, unlike most of the Flash Gordon soundtrack, we have quite a few to listen to this time around. They did play this live, although in a brief format, but they did it on more than one occasion, multiple live releases of that. And we do have a couple of different versions to get through. And how are we going to listen to them? Well, if you look at the show notes, you'll see a Google Doc, and on that doc has links to YouTube versions of all the different versions we're going to cover. But we're going to listen to them one by one, and we're going to talk about them. And that's how this how the podcast rolls. Before we do that, I do have one note and one quote. The one note is the live version. As I mentioned, it was performed live with Flash as kind of a medley throughout 1982. So pretty much from 1980 through 1982. Then it was revisited during the Queen and Adam Lambert tour, much a similar fashion. They'd open with Flash, they'd go into a little bit of the hero, but never the whole thing before going into a different song. The quote, we do have one actual quote about this song. It was from Freddie Mercury to Brian May upon hearing the song. Quoted, "You always write me these songs which fucking kill my beautiful voice." Fair enough, Freddie. This is a high one for sure. All right, let's get into it and let's start listening to it. How are we going to do that? Well, you're going to pause me. You're going to go listen to the version I tell you to listen to. And you're going to come back and unpause me, and we will talk about it. Sound good? All right, let's get to it. Album version first. See you in a moment. So there you have it, The Hero. Big drums, big power chords. Although it is kind of a couple of songs kind of still spliced together, so it's hard to call it a real full song, but it is the only one really besides the main theme and various reprises to have the lyrics attached to it. So I'll give it that kind of credit. Big drums, big power chords, like I said, it basically is the battle theme with lyrics. If it sounds familiar to you, that's why. It is the battle theme, and then it comes out and it goes into a lyrical portion about 52 seconds in. That's when the song really begins, and I got to give credit where credit's due. Freddie, you heard that quote before. Freddie has some high rocking, not quite screaming, but really up in his register kind of full voice moments there. It's tough to reproduce, as you're going to find out live, but it's really some of the great studio hard rock vocals that Freddie has given. It's very grooving. It's very fun. It's very powerful. Keeps going. It has a moment that afterwards had that orchestration and that synthy key that comes in, reminding you that's the sci-fi epic. You have those orchestrations coming in with the big swirlies and the big moments. And then another reprise of Flash's theme again. Brian tends to do that. He does take that theme and reprise it throughout. Then it goes into this outro. It has that big triumphant swell before the big explosive ending as we close out the soundtrack. Great version for sure. All right, let's move on to the next version we're going to listen to. This one's not too different, but different enough. This is the film credits end version, the actual one that was in the film itself, not quite the soundtrack version. Let's take a listen to that, and we'll come back. We'll talk about that one. Well, there you go there. So if you didn't listen too closely to that version on YouTube, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't understand why it's a separate version. It's not very different. It's a slightly different mix. It's most noticeable when Freddie first comes in. I'm not sure it's quite alternate takes, but it's definitely a different mix for the sound. It kind of goes different places. The most obvious part also for me happens when the Flash reprise section comes in. We have those Flash ahs. It almost feels like it's missing the highest harmony of the ahs. So it gives this kind of lower feel to it, a kind of a more low, not quite guttural feel to it, but it just feels like it's not quite as expansive, a little bit brought in. But that's really it. It's not really a whole lot different, honestly. It's just a slightly different mix. It's worth listening to once or twice. But at the end of the day, if you don't ever hear it, or if you never heard it, or you skipped it, you're not missing a whole lot. It's pretty much it's pretty similar to the final mix. So, all right, moving on to the next version. This one's October 1980 Revisited. It is a remix that came from the 2011 remaster and reissue, the double CD, or the actual CD, of the bonus EP of Flash Gordon when the band went to Island Records. Joshua J. McCrae and Justin Shirley Smith, both who have long affiliations now with Queen Productions, created a new mix, and this is the result. So pause me, click on that, and come back and we'll talk about it. All right, coming from the original multi-track master tape, McCrae and Shirley Smith created this great new mix featuring Freddie's double-track vocal, which previously was unheard up until this version. The drums sound even bigger and more like bombastic. Freddie's vocals just come through very crisp, very sharp. It does feel like there's some different vocal takes, or at least mixes that were buried, or vocal takes that were buried under the mix, and now they've been kind of unearthed during that Flash's reprise section. Slightly different there. This is a banger of a remix, I gotta say. It's a really proper remix too, in terms of, like, it doesn't change the song entirely. It's just not going off in a totally different direction. It's still the same feel of the original song. It just kind of highlights some things that are missing, and perhaps adds a little bit more color to it for certain. So let's move on to the live versions. I do have a total of 4 live versions we're going to listen to from the Freddie Mercury era of Queen. I know some will say it's the Queen era, but we have 4 of them that were released. I'm going to have you listen to them all at once because they're all pretty similar. They're all in a similar time frame from 1980 to 1982. Of course, the 1982 ones feature a heavier keyboard, so that's the big difference there. But for the most part, if you've heard one, you've heard them all. Got Rock Montreal, Live Sao Paulo, 1981, On Fire, Live at the Bull from Milton Keynes, and Live in Japan, 1982. You listen to any which ones you want. I'm going to listen to, if I had to choose 2, I would choose Rock Montreal and On Fire, Live at the Bull as the best mixed versions of them to hear. But your miles may vary. You can listen to all 4. Either way, come back. I'll mention all 4, and we'll just go from there. And there you go there. Like I said before, it's about 1 minute and 50 seconds, and it comes on the tail end of a Flash's theme section to do it as a medley Flash and then into the hero. Freddie does not go for those high rocking notes he does in the studio efforts, which unfortunately, for me at least, hurts the song. It's still cool to hear live, absolutely. However, when I want to listen to the hero, I kind of want to hear those big, high rocking Freddie's voice destroying vocals in a way. It's competent enough, but it's not my favorite version. It's not my favorite thing live. Although I will say it does get the crowd hyped up to it. It's a great opening number when the band decided to use it that way. Live in Sao Paulo 1981 mix is quite different. We don't have quite as good a sound in this one. Synth heavy. Brian synth comes through really heavy, almost kind of too heavy, kind of drowns out some of the other things as well. Freddie does have some wrong lyrics in there, but he makes up for it by being, I think, a little bit more into it perhaps in Montreal. Although kind of your miles may vary. Would you have the better sound quality, or would you have Freddie being more into it? It's a little bit of both. I like to have both in a way. There are some cool guitar swirls at the end there, so I do like that for sure. As we get into On Fire, Live at the Bulls, we have the full-time keyboardist in play here. Again, the synths are there, but Freddie's still not going for those high notes, so not a whole lot different there. Finally, Live in Japan 1982, we get that heavy synth mix again. It kind of feels like the more we get from the foreign countries outside of Europe, outside of England, then they tend to be more synth heavy in their mixes. I don't know if it's part of the culture there or whatnot. Phrasing is a little different there. I think the phrasing is actually one of the best in the Live in Japan 1982 because it actually feels like it's suited for that lower register version. Although it's a good solid mixture of the track live. As again, but it's shortened down. It's kind of short and sweet, so it is what it is. All right, we got one more to listen to, a different live version. This time we got Queen and Adam Lambert doing it. This one from Live in Barcelona in 2016. Click on the link, come back, and we will talk about it. And there you have it. We don't have any officially released versions for Queen and Adam Lambert, so we only have the audience recordings. And it's tough to find a good audience recording of Adam singing The Hero. Again, they also did the version just like Queen did back in the day. It is a flash into The Hero, which makes sense because The Hero is, like I said, when you listen to the studio effort, it's not really a whole song in and of itself. It's the battle theme. It's got a little bit of snippet of The Hero, and it goes into the Flash's theme reprise. So it's kind of like a mix and matcher of songs as it is almost like a little medley in and of itself. It's interesting to note that even Adam doesn't go for the higher notes here. Adam, who has a little bit more of a higher register sometimes than Freddie does, as far especially when he goes to live concerts and everything else, he doesn't even go for the full-on high notes here at all either. So it tells you how heavy and how hard that track is to sing live if Adam and Freddie both aren't even going to bother attempting it. I would also say Adam is a fine singer. I've mentioned this before. A lot of people don't like him from the Queen camp. A lot of people say, it's Freddie or nothing. I get that. I totally get that. I do think Adam's overhated. But I've always said before as well, Adams shows his weaknesses most on the hard rocking tracks like The Hero. He's a pop singer. He's a pop, classical. He has some classical moments as well, but he really struggles to seem genuine on those hard rocking, those dirty hard rocking vocals. This is no exception, honestly. But it is, we are completists. We try to listen to everything if we can. So there you go. That's going to do it as far as the listening goes. Now we have to figure out we're going to rank these things and give it a rating. I'll do the rating first. We always rate things on a scale of 1 to 11 here on PLD Projects. We always turn things up to 11. Although the Flash Gordon soundtrack's been kind of different. I've been kind of giving it lesser. I start with 5.5 and then kind of go from there because, quite frankly, it's hard to judge these tracks. Most of them were incidental tracks. They were like a minute or two long tracks. They did what they were supposed to do. But I mean, at the same time, it's like, well, what are we doing here? Like, you can't really fault it for being short 1 minute tracks. It does what it's supposed to do. But at the same time, it's hard to judge that up against a full-on Queen song. So I kind of led them both to 5.5. And then if it went higher than that for whatever reason, or lower than that for whatever reason, I'd go from there. The Hero is one that does go higher because it does have vocals and it does have that kind of full song feeling. It almost tricks you into feeling it's a full song, even though there are kind of snippets for other things as well. But I'm going to give this one an 8.5. I love this one. This is one I turn up in the car quite often. If I'm going to listen to a track from the Flash Gordon soundtrack, it'd probably be this one, honestly. Maybe The Kiss. Maybe I kind of like those Freddie airy, angelic voices. That, too, I'll give you that. But as far as a rocking out song, this gives me some of that Flash's theme, and it gives me those high rocking Hero vocals as well. So I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 11. All right, next up, we have to actually rank the tracks now and figure out which one is the titular crown jewel. We had so many to listen to, so many to choose from, and I'm going to give you my final listing from the order of lowest to highest, the highest being our crown jewel, our best version. We're going to slide into our ultimate playlist. Last on the list, it's the Queen and Adam Lambert version from Barcelona 2016. I chose Barcelona as one of the ones I could find a copy of. Your miles may vary. They have a couple of different ones out there bootleg-wise, but that's a good representation of it. Not great. It's fine. It is what it is. Adam doesn't go for the high notes, just like Freddie didn't go for the high notes. I'm not slamming Adam for that, but he doesn't have quite a great rock voice, honestly. He's much more a pop singer and does the pop and ballad stuff much better than the rock version. That's my last one. From there, we got On Fire Live at the Bull. Then we get Live at Japan 1982. Had some different unique swirls there. It makes up for kind of the shitty mix. From there, we have Rock Montreal. And then above that, we have the Sao Paulo 1981. Again, it's a shittier mix than Montreal, but Freddie being into it actually does do its thing for me, so that's where I'm going to go there. I think you knew that already. I kind of breezing through these. I think you knew the live versions were less for me. A lot of times, Queen tracks, you'll find the live versions are better. A lot of people love the live versions over the studio versions for various reasons. Sometimes, though, I feel like you're going to listen to the best version of the song. You got to listen to the studio version for this song. It's not a snippet version. It's not kind of a quick version. We got those full hard rockin' vocals. So of the three album versions, or rather the three studio versions we're taking care of, the October 1980 Revisited, the end credits version, and the album version, what's going to be our crown jewel? It's not going to be the end credits version. The end credits version, like I said, it's a slightly different mix from the album version, but honestly, it is a little bit of an inferior mix. I'm not exactly a fan of it. It's interesting to hear once or twice because of the differences, but overall, it's going to be last on the list for sure. It does have the high Freddie vocals, though, the hard rockin' Freddie vocals, so it does match up over the live versions, but it is what it is. So that means we're left between the top two versions. Which one is it going to be? Well, I'm going to surprise some folks here. I'm going to go with that October 1980 Revisited one. Something about it is just large, it's in charge, it's out there, it's got those double-tracked Freddie vocals, it's got the bigger drums. It's a solid remix, it's a tasteful remix, and I think it gets more out of the track than the original version did. So a good remix by Joshua J. McCrae and Justin Shirley Smith, and there you have it, folks. October 1980 Revisited, that's our crown jewel for the hero. And that's going to do it for this week, folks. Thanks for sticking with me, as always. If you like what you see, you can join patreon.com/PLD Projects, or you can join our YouTube membership here. You'll get the early versions of Crown Jewels, sometimes as hard as 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead of time. Early episodes like that. You also get some other content from my movie, TV side of things as well if you join over there. If you can't, I totally understand that. Like, subscribe, leave comments. That does help us fight the evil algorithm, so you can really help us out that way. That would be great. And next week, we're going to do the Flash Gordon concerts. That's another brief episode before we break into Roger Taylor's Fun in Space, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Stick with me. I will see you next time. You are my hero. Peace.